Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of the program, The Nigerian Governors Live, reaching you live from the city of Abuja. My name is Aonduna Inga. The recent VAT wars have brought into sharp focus the ongoing ritual of amending the 1999 Constitution. Governors will play a huge role in this process. Not only will they present positions on what they believe should be amended, they control state houses of assembly who play a huge role in the amendment process. With the recent position taken by the governors of Rivers and Lagos states seem to be bringing to the fore calls for fiscal federalism. Can we really get past a restructuring of the economic relationship between federal and state governments when we talk about the review of the 1999 Constitution? We have a guest in the house tonight, and we are going to be extensively looking at this topic within the time that we have. And the topic we're going to be looking at today is governors and the VAT wars, exploring devolution as a credible option. Once again, welcome to the program. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll meet our guest and go straight into the discussion. I thank you for staying with us, and if you're just tuning in, thank you for joining us on the program, The Nigerian Governors Live. Well, we're about to get straight into our topic of discussion, which is governors and the VAT wars as a value-added tax. Now, for the benefit of those who may not know what VAT is, after all of a sudden, those three-letter words have become very popular across Nigeria. Is the value-added tax, exploring devolution as a credible option. My guest to discuss this topic with me today on the program is no other person but Adaji John Desmond. He's an entrepreneur and a development expert. Mr. Adaji, or should I stick to John? Whichever.
Anyone.
Okay, let me go with John. Mr. John, thank you so much for joining us on the program
Thank you for having
today.
Me in the studio.
Yes. So we'll go right into the discussion for today. Now, the recent disagreement over who collects value-added tax has brought into sharp focus efforts to amend the 1999 Constitution. What are your views about who should collect VAT?
Well, let me say it like this. It's not a disagreement. It's part of the process of building a formidable nation. Okay. What happened in the past is the federal government has been collecting tax, and it was in place on exclusive leave of what the only federal government can do. And as the nation progressed, tax activity came into Nigeria since 1993, and this is 2021. So as the nation progressed, some smart brains among us are beginning to unearth what needed to be done that was not done. So that is why you see as if there's a disagreement. No, there's no disagreement. If it was placed on exclusive lists, nobody will attempt to ask who's supposed to collect VAT. But since it's not there, of course, the state where these VAT are generated should be the one responsible to collect the VAT.
But you are saying this is not a disagreement. You're probably looking at it from the expert view of a development expert. But the political class and even fellow other Nigerians do not seem to agree that it's not a disagreement. So where do we draw the line? How do we really get across to people and let them know that, look, what is going on between the governors and the federal government, the whole mix-up, it's not a disagreement? How do we convince people that it is not a disagreement?
You know, one of the challenges we have been having in our system is our ability to accept changes at various times. What just happened is that, just as I said earlier, some smart brains, among the governors came up, saw the loops in the Constitution and attack it from that side. It's not what is disagreeable about it. They have gone to court, and they won the case. So are you now saying that when cases are won at the courts, there's disagreement? No.
Or more, more in this case, pronouncements made at the courts, right?
Yes, these are the part of the failures of the system. And somehow, the system itself is now being corrected by the system. It's as a result of the failure. Since 1993, the men and women working in federal inland revenue that are saddled with this responsibility did not know that, oh, this is supposed to be exclusive rights of the federal government, that they will have approached the National Assembly since to make it a constitutional matter more complex for state. But you see, because we are so interested in what comes in, not how it comes in, we are not looking at the direction of the future. So it's a result of the failure of the system. And we thank God that, you see, Nigeria is a country that has a great hope and a great future. When we say our future is bright, people don't understand it. Things that are not working will naturally be correcting itself. Now, people were calling for restructuring earlier. If the state succeed, what are you restructuring again? The next thing is to go and check which other things are we supposed to do.
Now, good, the interesting thing you mentioned, restructuring. Now, the debate on restructuring has never been louder, unlike the past when it was a huge or vague, ambiguous label. Different pressure groups are actually beginning to narrow it down to some basics. Now, one of the fundamentals is fiscal federalism. Do you agree that this debate on the value-added task will eventually open the way for a discussion on fiscal federalism?
Well, I don't agree on that because
also, yeah,
because of the political system. You see, what we have now, you know, this case has to go as far as the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And I know, let me not preempt anybody, but I know that we have a case, for instance, in 2007 elections when Yaradua came during the inaugurations and made some pronouncement that the process that brought him was flawed. And then the Chief Justice of Nigeria then, while ruling, acknowledged all the errors and mistakes of that election, which will have led to nullification. But because of the cost and security, they say, let's allow it to be. So also, I believe that may play out on this matter. But when we talk of physical federality we are looking at, of course, we are moving towards there. But there are a lot of things that we need to also look. Because when we call restructuring, let's be sincere with those who are calling for. Is it those who want to use it to win vote? Or those who want to practice a restructure federation? Because I remember in 2016, when I think it was Atiku then, that raised this voice then, that said, look, this country needs to be restructured. But we need to also look at the capacity of the people that are asking for it. We need to look at for their antecedent. Are they politicians? Of course, if the economic brains of this nation say, look, the only way we can succeed now as a nation is by restructuring our values, our taxes, and our economic base. Of course, we can do it, and it's going to be possible. But if it is politicians, we need to be careful the way we give them credibility that it's going to be possible.
Okay, so by and large, you're not so positive about the issue of federalism, fiscal federalism, as it stands right now.
Using the present.
What pointers will you see from state governors, particularly, to give you that assurance that, well, true federalism can actually work?
Look, let's talk about our dream. What's federalism we are talking about is we living in a system where we can cater for ourselves. That is our dream. Okay? What that means is that my state should be able to economically base on the state. All right? But, sir, do you know that the present structures we have is almost the same thing with what we are looking for? There's no law that stops any state of the federation from building companies, investing in factories and manufacturing. There is no law. There is no law that stops any state of Nigeria from generating heavy revenue through, transformation of their natural resources. No law. So what are you asking of? Look, What exactly are we asking of? What do we want to be restructured? If Rivers State is ready today, the federal government can give them license to run a modular refinery that can create employment for their citizens. They have the money. So what exactly are you saying? You must drill oil before you get money? No. If you have your money, when it is time for licensing of the petroleum sectors where you can get oil field to drill, you go for it. Look, let's not be too political when it comes to national development. The challenge in Nigeria is that a lot of us are listening to the politicians. Meanwhile, they are taking advantage of our weakness to get votes. Look at what happened now, for instance, on this VAT matter. Yes, they saw the loophole and they attack it and they are winning. But does that mean they are correct? No. They are not correct. How can Lagos State claim they are collecting 400 and something billion? So are you now saying because the head office of those establishments are established in Lagos, it's only Lagos State that they generate the whole revenue? No, it's not. It is not.
Let's move on now. Now, some months ago, Southern Governors Forum asked for devolution of powers from the center. This would involve issues of security and mineral rights. But can state governors be trusted with more powers?
Well, it is our country and it is our future. We need to start from somewhere. We need to start from somewhere. You know, recently you see that the security architecture of the Southwest was broken down to their level, where we have something like Omoteku. In some states, they have local vigilante. If you talk, you cannot talk about the success story of Nigerian armed forces in Northeast without talking about the civilian JTF. Now, some of the civilian JTF is under the exclusive of the state governments, and Omoteku also there. So it is high time we begin to look at which power can come to the local people, because one of the failure of the system is a result of all the power. For instance, security. The local government has no power over any security, and this is where the criminals hide. If the police in that place cannot chase them, the people are powerless to go after them. So as much as possible, let's gradually begin to devalue the power at the center so that the people at the bottom can get something, and let's see how it goes.
You know, in the midst of all of this conversation, most times it appears to look like northern state governors may be handicapped. You know, looking at the issue of the VAT, devolution of powers and what have you, it is made to look as though northern states will probably be entirely dependent on the South and may not be able to thrive on their own economically. What's your position on this?
No, I disagree with that. Have you seen the content of the VAT generations in Nigeria? It's just only two states that are doing excessively well, Rivers and Lagos. There are a lot of states in the north that are doing more than some states in the south. What do you mean? It's an opportunity for all of them to upstate their games in generating VAT. There are a lot of companies in the north that are not being taxed. All right, so we shouldn't look at it like that. Okay. We shouldn't look. Let's say the VAT of MTN. Do you know it's generated based on consumptions, and the consumption is relative to population? So why do we look at it like that? Why do we look at it like that? All the VAT in Lagos, I can tell you that 30% of it are not coming from Lagos. 30% of it. All the VAT being collected in Lagos. That means all the VAT, MTN say they paid 70 billion in the last years thereabout. What that means is that the one using Benue, the one using Sokoto, the one using Kano, combination of it, because their head office is in Lagos, they remit directly through the Lagos FIRS. Does that mean the money was generated in Lagos? No. So if we look at it, that is a very dicey case. We need to be careful about this case because it's going to affect our federalism later that we don't know. What that means is if a president in power and a foreign company is coming, you know, they can encourage them, you know, somehow to move to their place. It's also going to be good for us because everybody has to also create enabling environment for companies to
come and thrive.
So it's a two-way something that we need to be careful. It's not because you are generating the no. Jigawa generated more than Oshu or Enugu in the last throughout the total accumulations we have this year.
Yeah.
So there are a lot. It's not by this or that.
Okay.
Let's not look at the
let's move on now. Now let's talk about how it affects the anti-open grazing law. Now governors, particularly in the South, are signing this law while the president has asked the federal government agencies to identify and reclaim old grazing routes. What is the middle ground for this standoff?
You see, this anti-open grazing law, we need to be very careful with it also. You see, the president is speaking for Nigeria, while the governors are speaking for their states.
But when you say the president is speaking for Nigerians, not too many Nigerians agree with that. They
Well,
seem to feel that the body language of the president does not necessarily resonate with Nigerians.
yeah, it's true, because you see, we need to understand this, that as a leader, it's not everybody that is going to be on your throne. That is certain. But in terms of this anti-grazing law, if you listen to the interview of the president with the rice team, he told us that he had two visitors from the Southwest, that the two Southwestern governors came, and they met him. They asked him, what can they do in terms of these cattle headers clashes? And the president said, look, you go back. You went around. You campaigned. You told your people that you're going to protect them. What that means? The president has given them an open check to go and do whatever they can do within their confines to solve that problem. And one of it is the law that they are putting, which is very, very, very necessary. Yes, of course, the president and the president of Nigeria also has to open his own book and check the existing law. Is there any law that agree with what they are doing? Okay, he has set a panel, you go and do it and report back. Do you understand? Why they are doing that panel, the state that have been troubled by these other activities will also be putting law to checkmate it. Look, it's not the first time, it's not the Southwest. What the governor, it's just that the governors are not too, they are not taking advantage of the governors forum to have a review of what is working somewhere and what is not working somewhere. This law has been existing in Benue State for the past 3 to 5 years. So why have they not copied it? Is it a new law? We have anti-open grazing law in Benue State. Did anybody stop it from operating?
No, not
So
exactly.
why are they making news about it? Why are they making it? It's not news. So they need to help the president.
But you know, the center of it all is the fact that the gross of most governors is the fact that even with this law in place, they still are having issues of farmers' headers clashes. You're still having people killed on their farms and what have you. So that in itself is a major concern, isn't it?
Now, that is another case entirely. Look at the case of Benue, for instance. If you have been following the cases in Benue, most of the challenges in Benue now are within the borderline of Nasarawa and Taraba. Now, what can we deduce from there? If Nasarawa had put anti-open grazing law and Taraba the same thing, do you think there will be herdsmen or herders or people around that area to cause problem? No. These people are no longer at the center of Benue State. They are now at the border. So they're crossing and fight. Check throughout the news. Check throughout the news. So some of these states didn't follow these things on time. But whether they follow it on time or they don't follow it on time, it is now the time. Let them start it.
Okay.
Let them start it. Whatever will bring peace in Nigeria, let us start to embrace it.
All right. So don't forget that some states have benefited from the federal government's largesse to set up ranches. Do you think this is the right way to go?
Well, it's quite unfortunate. I don't really understand why federal government is interested in giving states money to...
But there are some states who say they don't have the land for ranches. So
Well,
would you blame the federal government for taking such a position?
If a state is not involved in ranching, no problem. But if any state that have activities of herdsmen or herders, they should please approach the federal government to give them fund. since they are giving to other states, that can create employment, that can create modern farming, you know, in that state. Since the federal government say, look, we have money, we want to venture into this business. I don't know whether the money is loan, I don't know whether the money is free. Whatever it is, if it is money and they are interested, and those states that are not interested should also write a proposal to federal government that, look, if you are giving Plateau State, for instance, for ransom, give us money to do poultry. Yes, it's a national money, and everybody should benefit from it. Yes.
Okay. So we're quickly running out of time. So let me just take this one. Now, so what roles should governors play in focusing this review process on the important things that will foster unity in the country?
The Nigerian governors should please exploit their potential. They have a lot of potential, and they should exploit it. If there is no Nigeria, there may not be states. Most crises we are witnessing today are coming from the states, not Abuja. So whatever they can do within their comfort. It's not just when they discover our laxity, they discover the national mistakes and error, the next thing is to throw it into the center. No.
But when you say states have potentials, people often ask the questions, what has Jigawa got to offer? What has Yobe State got to offer? And some other smaller states within Nigeria, what do they have to offer? What potentials do they have to offer?
When you say you have to offer, it's important we know who we are and what we are. Geologically, where we have the earth resources deposited, there is no state in Nigeria that lack minimum of 3 earth resources that can make that state wealthy than any European state. Geologically. Do you know what Zamfara have? Do you know what we have? Do you know Kano is an arid land, but do you know that Kano is supplying, or at least I can say 20 to 25% of all the food that we eat in Nigeria? What do you mean by smaller state? What do you mean? Look, all the states in Nigeria, what I said earlier is this: let the governor tap into their potentials. You must not be producing oil. You must not be engaging in agriculture. There's one state, I think Kano State, one time under the leadership of Governor Kwankwaso, was sending young people abroad to go and study medicine. Do you know that Cuba at the beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, sent doctors to Italy?
To Italy, yes.
So what do you mean by that? Nigeria is one of the richest nations on earth. All we need to do, since we are segmented by state governors should please calm down and tap into the potentials of their state. Look, Kogi, for instance, the richest man in Kogi State. Do you know what made him the richest man in Nigeria? He got his wealth from Kogi State through Obajana Cement. Do you know we have Kogi Cement?
All right. Well,
is anybody hearing about it?
Well, that would be a good way.
Do you know we have Asaka Cement in Bauchi? We have Sokoto Cement. What do you mean? So focus on your state. Focus on your state. Some of the governors are in Abuja. Some of them have not even visited some of the local governments in their state since they became governor. So okay. What are you doing in Abuja? Don't you have economic ministers or finance commissioners who are supposed to represent you? And then go around with the people.
All right, Mr. It almost appears as though the conversation is starting all over. But perhaps this will be some conversation for the future as well. Probably looking at some of the emphasizing on the natural resources we have across most states in the country. That may be knowledge most people do not necessarily know. Mr. Adaji John Desmond, thank you so much for coming on the program, the Nigerian Governors Live today. We have been looking at the topic governors and the value-added tax war, exploring devolution as a credible option. My guest, of course, like I said, is Mr. Adaji John Desmond, an entrepreneur and a development expert. I'd like to thank you as well for joining us on the program today. Please keep it a date with us, same time next week at 6:30 here on Silverbird on Monday. If you are in Abuja, you can join us on Rhythm 94.7 FM Abuja on Friday at 9 o'clock to be a part of the program as well. To my production crew and to everyone who has been a part of this program, thank you very much and do have a pleasant evening.